Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Particle Accelerator. Today we're joined by John Paul Maines, CEO of Click Laboratory. He is a marketing leader who has driven results for some of the biggest names in business, from Google to Subway to Outback Steakhouse. But what makes John's story unique isn't just enterprise wins, it's how he built his agency in direct response to what he felt God was calling him to. Today, we're diving into how AI is transforming content marketing, why the age of search engine dependency may be ending, and how to build technology business with a kingdom purpose. John Paul, welcome to the Particle Accelerator.
Glad to be here, man. Really appreciate you having me on to talk to Breeze, figure out what we can do to keep our businesses growing, our agencies relevant, and keep up with everything that's going on in the world. So I'm
Yeah,
open to
awesome.
anything you want to discuss.
Awesome. Take us back to 2013. You'd just been bought and sold twice in the same year. You're sitting on your backyard swing in Tampa.
Yes.
What was the conversation with God like, and how did Click Laboratory emerge from it?
Yeah. So backing up a little bit, this is my third agency. Yeah, I've run two before. One very not successful, was pretty much straight out of college, and my second one was out of Washington D.C. way back in 1994 when it was everybody's like, "Oh, webmaster, that's so amazing and cool! Wow, you're cool." That particular day, I've been working at different companies, and we've been acquired twice. I was at one company, got acquired by our biggest, slowest competitor, and everybody's, "Oh man," but yeah, it is what it is. That's what happens. But we've loved running circles around them. But then, joined another company as a director of marketing, and we were doing some really cool stuff. We were actually competing with Google, not Google search, but Google product advertising at the time. And we were doing so well that Google came through and says, "Hey, we're going to buy you." I was like, and so the owner's okay. And I was like, oh man, but that's exciting. Got to see inside Google and see how it actually operates, which was another conversation, but totally fascinating. But then it was like, all right, guy, what are you going to do with me now? Because I wasn't going to be part of the Google transition.
Right.
And they wanted to move us way up north, which was really cold. And I'm a Southern guy. I grew up atheist and have met my wife, and she introduced me to the church, and I thought I was going to disprove everything that was going on there. But lo and behold, God really got a hold of my heart and brought me on a wild and crazy journey. 2013, I was like, all right, God, what do you want me to do now? I just got bought and sold twice, practically in 1 year, and I'm not really sure what to do. That was exciting, but I need another job. God, what do I do here? I got to feed my family and all this kind of stuff. 'Cause I wasn't one of those that had a whole lot of stock options and got to be rich coming out of it. It was like, okay, I'm just another employee guy. But I really felt God in my heart saying, I want you to create a new platform for Christian content because it was dispersed all over the place. Christians have done a terrible job for the most part up to that point with the online world. And so I really felt God tugging on my heart to say, all right, go create this thing. I was like, great. I don't have money to create this thing. What am I going to do? And so I kind of went and talked to some family and friends. Hey, I got this thing that God's kind of tugging my heart to build. And they're like, great. We ain't got the money either. But yeah, I really felt God leading me to come back to, you know how to run an agency. You've been here, done it before. Let's do it again. Raise your own money in order to do this. It's like, oh, please. Running an agency is really hard. I really have to do this again. And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, I listened. That was 2013 and still here. I've got to do some amazing projects along the way, amazing customers, all sorts of different industries. And it's been a roller coaster. I'm not going to say it was all easy, and it isn't, but it got to
Yeah.
some pretty amazing things and got to do what God had directed me to do to begin with, which was to create that platform, which we talked about. And we're still rocking and rolling, man. We're still going and still
Yeah.
serving.
Yeah, you mentioned originally wanting to build an app in the ministry space. How's that original vision evolved over the past 12 years?
The original vision was really just I'm not a pastor. I don't know anything about teaching anything. So I was like, okay, let's bring all the great content that's out there into one spot, into one platform. And so it took a couple of years for us to really get there. I had some great development team and what have you. And there's a lot of hiccups, but we ended up releasing our very first version. I think it was like 2015 or 2016. It was pure web at that point. We didn't actually create an actual app, but it was just a web app. We got a team around it. We got lots of great people that were feeding us content. I was like, all right, we're going to just blow this thing out of the water. Nope, we didn't. I really thought we would. But what we did is we stayed at it. We kept providing it. Yeah, we still have the agency, but we kept feeding money into the platform and kept growing it over time. And it waned on and off. where we work on it for a while and then we get busy with customers and work on it for a while and get busy with customers. But we are launching a brand new version this year. It's totally redone from scratch. We actually had one of our customers come to us and says, we love what you're doing. Let's create something new, something along the same lines, still aggregating great content, but we're going to blow it up and back it a lot with AI capabilities and really make a brand new platform for supporting streamers in the Christian space, devotionals, all sorts of great stuff that's common in this, but we're really utilizing AI to help us in our content creation efforts and also marketing that content out so that we can really leverage the capabilities of what AI can do in order to build content, distribute content, attract people in. It was built from the ground up a second round, and we're launching it here this quarter with this new version of it, which we're super, super excited about because it's also going to be white label. So other people can utilize everything that we've built within this.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really awesome. Have a lot to relate to that
Yeah.
story. I built a content aggregation engine in finance, investing channel back in the day, but
Cool.
I want to focus on you a little bit here. You have degrees in medical and electrical engineering from the Louisiana Tech.
Yes, you did
How
some
does
digging.
that engineering mindset show up in how you approach marketing?
Yeah. So right out of school, I was like, man, biomedical engineer. I was really fascinated with all sorts of crazy stuff. This was right pre-web. And so I got out there and got a job in research and product development. And it was really cool. But what I discovered is stuff was really hard. And then this World Wide Web thing came along. This is easy. Compared to what I was doing, this is the World Wide Web stuff was nothing. Back then, it was like, oh, yeah, you were going to use Perl and CGI,
Yeah.
and websites were ugly, so you didn't have to have any user experience capabilities. Your graphic design was atrocious, and everybody still, oh, man, this is great. But that was then, and now obviously things are way, way more challenging. It allowed me, I was an engineer, I'm a creator at heart. I love creating things, I'm an entrepreneur. And so that engineering background provided a pretty good foundation for figuring things out.
Right.
Rolling up the sleeves, getting out there is, okay, I don't know how to do that. So let's go figure it out. There's got to be great resources. And so that's how I've approached all of my growth is if I don't know something, if I don't know, get a new customer and I don't know their industry, I'm going to get out there and do all the research. And I think that it's one of the key skills that a good leader, especially in this digital marketing space, has to have in their tool belt is the ability to learn. Because if you're not learning, man, you're not going to keep up with this stuff because it's changing too fast. It's changing way too
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, 100%. I think the capacity to figure things out is if we could teach that, if that could
Yeah.
be taught, that is because I come from a similar era as you, where my first job in college, I worked for, I call it a dot-com bubble company. Where we were doing contracts to build like the first e-commerce platform in sporting goods or
Cool.
the first this,
Yeah.
the first that. And so we had two competing teams in our company. One was trying to figure out how to leave the Perl CGI world and build something in Java with
Yeah.
Java
Oh, sure.
servlet and all this. And then I was on a team and we decided to use Cold Fusion. Now, Cold Fusion's not a platform that people talk about much today.
It's still out
But
there. It is still out there. I still run across a Cold Fusion site every once in a blue moon. It's still.
oh, that's cool. And so we outcompeted the Java guys. We
Oh,
were building,
yeah.
we were able to talk to a database and put dynamic web pages together and it made sense. And so I got super into Cold Fusion architecture, this framework of building your Cold Fusion
Yep.
apps with Fusebox, where everything went back to a central routing page, which is just the norm of how like web projects
Sure.
work today. But we were inventing that. And then I started building a travel company with Cold Fusion. And we were in our own data center. And so the folks that work with me, the younger generation,
Mhm.
you actually had to build servers and you had to figure out how to load balance the internet. And the stuff that's just obfuscated to the cloud was not trivial back then. It was actually complex and we had to do all of that. So, but we appreciate like why network topography is what
Oh,
it
yeah.
is, whereas a brand new person in the DevOps community doesn't understand why they need to design the network ahead of putting resources in it. So I love that because it speaks to not necessarily how to do something, but the reasoning behind it.
Yes, I was never a network admin, but I have blown up my share of servers to do some of this stuff. I remember cases where I blew a customer's website totally away at one point because did the wrong command line on a Linux server and had to reboot. Hey, some network engineer, get over here, please fix my stupidity. But
Yeah.
learning experience, you get in there and you learn. So I learned how to not do that anymore. So that's
Yeah. You led demand generation at BMC Software, managing 330K a month in paid media, and you drove 35% conversion improvements at Google. When you moved from those corporate roles to running your own agency, what was the biggest mindset shift?
no longer having a team behind you. So when I first started out, it was me. I've got a team with me now, but it was having to juggle everything. And all of a sudden, I'm having to do the finance, collect the bills, everything that goes with running a business. That wasn't fun stuff. It's still not fun stuff by any stretch of the imagination. But you got to do sometimes what you got to do. Again, it's coming back to learning what's necessary. But it was definitely a different environment. It's going from lots and lots of resources to get stuff done and just saying, hey, Joe, can you go do this for me? Or Jane, go do that. To, oh, I've got to do it, at least for a while. And that was challenging because for me, it made growth hard because I was having to do everything. I was being the customer. I was talking to the customers and doing the work myself in the beginning. I didn't have a team, didn't have contractors. And then finding, as I started growing and getting more customers under part of the challenge then became finding good people you could trust. So I'm totally 100% remote. And so I had to build a team of trusted people. That in itself is a challenge. I've gone through so many people trying to find people which I can trust that can do good communication, thinking out of the box, delivering on time, know what they're doing. And usually I can find somebody that can do one of them, maybe two of them, but not everything you're needing. And if you get a developer in there that's great at coding but doesn't know how to do testing, that's got its own unique challenges. So that also was a startup challenge dramatically, is really building that core initial team that you can trust in to do good work that is aligned to the same mission which you have. So it's easy to find contractors. It's hard to find contractors that'll do great work for everything that you need. And it's really hard to find good people that can be aligned with what you're doing without just outright hiring them and having them physically there with you in person where you can work with
Yeah.
day in, day out.
Yeah, I found the same thing as I was starting the companies that I started, building the team and respecting the multiple skill sets, like the person who can help you with strategy. So a lot of the entrepreneurs we work with, they may have come from enterprise backgrounds. And so to be able to fill that strategy gap and the execution gap is really what we love doing. Because there's this thing I call stage appropriate decision making, right? Where you could have this super successful past career, and at Google or BMC Software, you're making certain stage appropriate decisions. I love helping people navigate that because sometimes it's what you're capable of doing and you can only focus on one thing at a time. Even the way we break down our AI strategy transformation for an enterprise, they may do all three things in the strategy. They may focus on all three areas of AI strategy, whereas for a startup, they may have to progress linearly.
Yeah, every organization I've had has different levels of maturity. Even Google, when I was inside Google, it was a bunch of techies really trying to just throw stuff out at the board and seeing what sticks. And their levels of maturity were all across the board. Their levels of capability all across the board. And I found that from one customer to the next customer, not all customers are the same. And not all companies are the same. They're vastly different based off the leadership and the people they've managed to hire and where they are in the business. And this is one of the struggles is you have to be extremely adaptable as a consultant or agency or something along those lines to being able to bring out the best in this particular customer. What is this customer really after? What are they like? What is their culture like? So that you can adapt to what they're really needing is really going to move the needle forward. Because I can look at one doctor's office and another doctor's office in the same type of practice, but they operate so differently. And how do you interact with them and help them with their digital strategy is vastly different from one to the other.
Right.
Their skills and what their maturity levels like.
Yeah, totally. I want to focus for a second on your AI application. Tell us about this incredible AI project. Someone came to you with 92 years worth of devotional
Yeah.
content in print form. Walk us through what you're building and why it matters.
So this project started out Fascinating project. And this gentleman had literal books of devotionals. So a devotional, for if you don't know, I mean, it's one day after another of basically you read something each day that's dedicated to some aspect that some lesson from the Bible. Okay. And lots of people have written these devotionals for hundreds of years, hundreds of years. And so this particular gentleman had, the way we put it is if you put one devotional after another, he has 92 years worth of devotionals, but they're in written form. They're not in digital form. And so, I mean, great stuff, and stuff by Spurgeon, and which is a great pastor from years back. And so he wanted to get this stuff all in digital format so that he could give this content away for people who wanted to use it for different purposes. And you're like, great, okay. Of course, there's scanning and OCR has been around for a long time. It's really easy to do that kind of stuff. You flip the page, scan it, next, flip the page, scan it, you've got it. The problem was that a lot of stuff is old and much older English than what we use in modern day. And it's in English. So we worked on building a platform. There's no way could have done this without AI. AI was absolutely critical to this project. The OCR is easy. So he would give us images and we'd run it through actually Google's OCR, which is great, by the way. We loved it. It was our favorite. But the next step was, all right, great. You converted it, but now we need to translate it because that English back then is not today's English, but it's still totally relevant because this content, I don't care what era it came from, it's still highly relevant even today. So what we did is, all right, we created a process for taking that content, let them see it, fix any errors which they see, and then run it through. And then we sent it with a prompt over to an AI to say, all right, with these parameters, give us back a modern day English version in whatever grade level we should choose and give it back to us. And so if we can do that, which worked great. Once we had to do a lot of tweaking to the prompt to get it to do it the right way without adding extra into it, because if you add something extra into biblical information, it can twist the meaning. And so we had to work on that. And once we got it, then everybody's still checking what it did, what its product is. But once we got that, they were like, okay, why not any language? All these devotionals from Spurgeon, converting in modern day English. Now let's convert them into the various different German, Spanish, whatever language we choose that OpenAI is capable of producing. And OpenAI has gotten better and better. We started out, I think in the very beginning with OpenAI 4 or something like that, but we're up to 5.2 with thinking, and it's even doing a better job of it and faster. And this works, man. And so we were send us tags back, write a new heading for us, write a short description for us to make it all better indexable within our own search. And it's working like a charm. And they're just cranking through these books now. That's where this project started from. And they're so excited because then they was like, okay, if we can do that with this, we can do that with all sorts of different formats of content. So now we've gotten into audio, we've gotten into video, being able to use AI for enhancing what we have in order to convert it into something that anybody can use. That's the power of this. Without AI, this would not have happened. Like back in the days when you mentioned some of the past jobs I was at, we did translation projects and you had to hire big companies, and it took forever to translate all your material over to other languages. And now, man, it is so much faster. And with this tiny team, barely funded, they were able to do things that were not thinkable even just a few years ago.
Yeah, we do a lot of, so I built a registered agent company where we receive all of the mail from basically the correspondence between the state and the LLC or corporation.
Okay.
And some of that mail is service of process.
Mm.
So very similarly, it's OCR to basically what used to be a taxonomy engine to figure out, like one of the taxonomies we had was the asbestos, and one of our customers was a law firm that received a lot of asbestos lawsuit information, and that all needed to be routed to a trust because the judgment had already been made. So they didn't want to reconsider any of these lawsuits. So we literally had a taxonomy to determine the asbestos of a particular document. Now with AI, we can just say, hey, if this document is about asbestos, route it to this other place. So
Total sense.
things that used to take a lot. Now you still were saying that there's human in the loop to do some of the quality assessment. Do you see that no longer being required because you're using AI to modernize the historical theological content?
Yeah. Yeah, we absolutely have to have a human in the process. I can foresee different types of other documents, totally automated, 100% automated, probably don't need any human touch. But in this particular case, a lot of language, changing one word can change the meaning of what the Bible says or what the intent of the writer had. And so you have to still review it by somebody who knows what they're doing to make sure that these AI engines didn't hallucinate or something else. Then, oh, yeah, we think this word was that word. And so we're going to change the meaning, but it changes the total meaning. You have to have this stuff still reviewed when it's something that's so emotional and about the heart. You want to keep the original meaning. Yeah, convert it into modern day English, but that meaning is so critical and you don't want to send the wrong idea because you'll lead somebody down the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah, human intervention, absolutely. AI saves a huge amount of time, huge amount of money, but people still have to be involved in it because these AI makes mistakes. I know we say AI, but my personal opinion is it's still an algorithm at the end of the day, and it makes plenty of mistakes, as we know. There may come a day where we don't have to worry about it, but that's not right now. You still
Yeah,
have
no,
people
that's
involved.
that's good. That's cool. I wish somebody would do that with the message or some of these translations that just don't quite hold the meaning as well. I think they're powerful for people who are trying to get a basic understanding of the Bible,
Oh,
but there's definitely some verses that the translation I think has lost significant meaning. But you described this as combining Spotify and Netflix models. What does content discovery and recommendation look like for devotional material? And how is that different from like secular content platforms?
sure. Which that part of it is something that we're focusing on this year. And so I would say, oh, yeah, here's the answer right here. But it's something we're actually working on right now. These big companies, they have, I mean, that the recommendation engine, which they've got, and that's a big portion of what they focus their efforts on. And it's a big portion of what we're going to be focusing on this year is you go to your Facebook feed and you see something on one topic and if you pause on that thing, you're going to be inundated with that topic. That's not what we want. To me, it's not a recommendation engine. You want to be able to judge where people are and what their interests are. And yeah, I don't want to inundate them with stuff, but I want to feed them with the next thing. I want to move people forward on their understanding and to see how they grow and see if I can measure. There's a lot of metrics you can capture digitally. So if you can measure where people are on their own journey and understanding of the content which you're feeding them, then you can make decisions on the next piece of content which you can feed them and recommend them new things in order to help them grow and help them move forward. So if you think of it from like just a business term, if I'm a baby entrepreneur coming in, I may not know diddly squat about finances. And you can see the kind of content they're consuming and how much time they spend on it and how much they go back and read and things along those lines. And you can make some determinations based off their level of capabilities and experience. And then you can push them into more and more advanced topics over time in order to go from down here and understanding finance to being an expert in it over time. That's what a recommendation really should be doing is seeing where people are and helping them move forward as opposed to, oh, here's the same thing and over and over.
Yeah.
Make it stop.
Yeah, it reminds me of something I was doing the other day where I was looking in the Bible app. I've been a big investor in personal development content and specifically faith based personal development content, which is a little bit different. Oftentimes, we get personal development content that's not super theological,
Sure.
but there are other really helpful, like the idea of taking ownership. So, you have in personal development, you always hear about the victim mindset, like taking responsibility, which is like a continuum of with this particular circumstance, what is my ownership level in this? Am I taking ownership of it? And I think the Bible teaches that it's happening for you. Like your circumstance is really happening for you, not to you. And so that is influenced by more of a personal development type of content.
Sure.
And I'm in the Bible app and I'm looking for recommendations of verses that, and this is not necessarily the best way to study the Bible, but I wanted to see what does the Bible say about the victim mindset. Sometimes since the words or sayings we use in modern culture, I love to search the Bible and find out, well, what does the Bible say about is that
Absolutely.
personal development mantra biblical and kind of work backwards in a way. And I was finding that was difficult. It was helpful, but difficult because I'd love to counsel people with a biblical mindset. And I also don't want to have incorrect thinking as I study some of the motivational content or personal development content.
Yeah.
So it's interesting as you try to match the devotionals to topics and then make those topics relevant to people in today's cultural language. I think that it could be really powerful and really interesting to see. So even in the devotional content in the Bible app, folks are starting to do this where, hey, here's 5 lessons or a week's worth of lessons around the victim mindset, and they're bringing some devotional to it, both risky and helpful at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it is extremely hard to try and figure this out, and that's why we're going to be spending a lot of time on it. We wanted to get the foundation in place and then start building this recommendation engine. Because to your point, the Bible, the way we're looking at it, the Bible is the truth. Okay, and biblically, yeah, it is our go-to source for understanding how to do life. It doesn't answer every single question that's out there, but it is the lens upon which we are supposed to interact with others. And so, one of the beautiful things that we're going to have here is we're not just letting any content into our platform. There's a lot of wackos out there. There really are that are going to claim to be Christians, and we don't want that in our platform. So we're basically making sure that we've got biblically solid material within our platform. So we've got text coming in, we've got videos coming in, we've got audio coming in. All that stuff can be, so any video, obviously, you can capture the transcript from it. Any audio, you can capture the transcript from it. And then what we're trying to work on is utilizing the AI to understand all of that to say when a person comes to us with a question, not just a keyword search on, hey, show me John, whatever, but I've got a real question, I've got a real problem in my life. What do I do about it? That we can uncover the right kind of answers for the right kind of content based off all this literally hundreds of thousands of pieces of content in order to try and answer that question. We're not going to answer it, but if I'm coming in and I'm interested in the topic, then we can uncover stuff from Craig Groeschel, the founders of the
Yeah.
Bible app. We can uncover Andy Stanley. We can utilize that in order to help people with whatever that problem is in moving forward. And because there's, like I said, there's a million sermons that are out there, and everything's been discussed. And if we can figure out how to mash all this content together to try and provide good, solid help to people or education to people as they grow, that's what we want. We want biblical growth utilizing our platforms. They can take that knowledge and share their own experiences with their friends and their family and the people around them, their neighbors, to say, I experienced this. It was hard, and God got me through it in such and such way. And I see that you're experiencing the same thing. And so here's my testimony about that, so that hopefully it will help you in your journey forward in embracing what the Bible has to say on the challenges of being a Christian in this world and the challenges of the world coming down upon us. And here's the biblical truth that can help you forward, hopefully, that just with a belief in Christ.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned the roadmap includes auto chopping videos into micro content and publishing
Sure.
that to social platforms. For enterprise executives thinking about content repurposing, what's actually possible today versus what do you feel like is still emerging?
I think it's still emerging, but it's nothing. It's so much better than what it used to be. So I mean, it's platforms that do this already, but we didn't want to just create a content repository. We want to create a place where if I've got content, I can post it in and it can be shared and it can be pushed out to social media. Because obviously, as we know, social media is the big deal. If everybody's consuming content from all these different places, and if we're talking about connecting with people across social media or email or wherever it may be, we want to be omni-channel, big buzzword. But what we want to do is if you upload a video to our site and say, okay, yep, I'm ready, I published this thing, now I want to market this piece of content organically. We're not talking about paid media, we're just talking organically. So take that video, find all the interesting points of it, create shorts of it, because we know shorts are doing really well on the TikToks and YouTube of the world. And so it will take that, create the right thumbnails, put text overlays, all those bits and pieces, even if you wanted to have an audio track going, and push that out to social media and then let it watch that in how those different posts work, we bring the data back in, we see what's working, what's not working, and tweak the engine on learning what kind of content works best out there so we can create even better content going forward. So it's a perpetual learning engine in order for us to learn from so that the people that are using the platform, the content producers that are using the platform can actually get a lot more out of it than just, here's my content. It's a marketing engine at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool. What's the business model look like? How does the model sustain itself? What are you guys thinking about the revenue engine?
This is something that we're still talking about. We're literally getting together to talk about this month. Obviously, I mean, it's just going to be probably it's going to be a license, obviously, like a normal SaaS play. Okay, you pay to play, and but we're still working on trying to figure all of that out at this point. But we got to keep it affordable. We're not trying to create a big behemoth where okay, we're for the enterprises only. No, we really want churches to be able to, even smaller churches, to be able to utilize this platform, which means it can't be expensive, but of course, we have to keep the platform running, but I hope that answers the question.
No, that's fine. You've said you're leaning into community apps because generative AI search results are changing how people find answers. Unpack that for us. What are you seeing that has you pivoting your strategy?
Yeah. This is about trying to, so we're recognizing the fact, if you look at Google search, it's generating a lot of AI response answers for us. People are going to download the new browsers from ChatGPT. I don't know if they'll catch on or anything like that, or they're going to Perplexity. But the thing is that people are getting their answers without having to go to the websites anymore. Even though Google is providing the little link to take you off to their website, what we're seeing is people don't necessarily click those links as much anymore. One of the things that we've been exploring is let Google answer or these systems answer reports. They're having to pull content from lots of different places. And so your content, you still want it to be number one that's out there. But in order to help combat and keep people around, what we're kind of been experimenting with more is let's create an app. What we're doing here for this aggregation platform is so that we can bring people in and interact with them here. And so, can we create something that's sticky enough, useful enough, interesting enough, whatever, in order to start creating a community where people can interact with each other, they can grow with each other, they can learn from each other, and interacting with a brand, and it's got its own answer built into it in order to find great content. But this way, I don't have to necessarily, if I'm super interested in car repair, let's create an app where you've got all sorts of different mechanics and other people and enthusiasts and fans in that space. They can come in and be in one place and they can interact with each other on that topic. And so if I'm running that kind of company that, okay, yeah, this is my app and I've got great content in it and I'm bringing all these people in and I'm suddenly creating something sticky, they're not having to go over to Google to search on something anymore. They can interact within the community in order to find the answers they want, because that is a much more trusted answer than trusting the GPTs of the world to produce it, because I'm actually interacting with trusted sources, human sources. And so we're seeing some interest in this now on more and more companies looking at creating community-focused content apps, which can keep people engaged with the brand, which also means a greater lifetime value because they're purchasing more stuff from that particular brand than just your normal website that's out there. And we'll see how the trend goes, but seeing a lot of interest in this all of a sudden.
Yeah. So if you're a CEO or CMO listening to this and 40% of your leads come from organic search, what should you be doing right now? How do you prepare for this shift?
Yeah, this shift is obviously going into these answer engines. I'll be surprised within another 5 years if we still see the same. Google's already changed from what we've just in the last couple of years. It's going to continue to change, and they're going to figure out ways of making money from it. And so you still have to invest more into great content, in my opinion. Original content that you're the expert in, that you're creating in order to feed these engines, but also feed your community. So if you can look like you're the leader in this particular, in whatever space it is, then people are going to recognize that and want to come to you for your content, whether it's video, text, or whatever. You have to be in the content business. This is what SEO was driving for us. As an SEO expert, we were having to do a lot of great content and push and push and push more content. And AI is just doing that, is making that even more important now in order to create even better content that's more engaging, that answers questions, that solves a problem. At the end of the day, we're trying to raise our brand to a certain level and solve people's problems. And if we're not doing that, then you just give it up.
Yeah.
Just give it up.
Yeah. What is that? So you're heavy in the restaurant space. what does that community app approach look like for a restaurant customer?
A lot of the big restaurants have their own apps at this point. The small ones, it's hard for them to do it, but the big ones, and so you're talking about loyalty points. Obviously, you're doing online ordering, which is so critical, especially since COVID. Online ordering is still hasn't fallen off. It's still huge. Getting in there, and these companies are using it for understanding what their customers want. They're constantly doing surveys and all sorts of other ways to engage and understand what their customers want so they can modify their menu, they can modify how they word things, they can work on what are the incentives which actually drive revenue, not just, oh yeah, here's 15% off. It's really understanding, okay, here's a coupon. How much does actually drive new subscribers, drive new purchases, drive new catering orders? And you're able to capture all this information within an app. There's a lot more information you can capture in an app than you can off of a standard website. And they've found it to be extremely helpful. And so an app is just as important as the website is these days for these bigger.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, this community app approach is really interesting because I think we're seeing this often where now it's about the person, right? So founder-led brands, or it's why I do this podcast, so people can see me and we can have conversations like I have with my clients, and it's engaging. And I think the same thing is, I really feel like the same thing's happening in music where, yeah, I can go look for a sound, and if I'm looking for a sound or a genre, probably much of the music I'm ingesting on Spotify is actually AI-driven music. But will I really listen to that more than for the novelty of it, right?
So I actually have a friend in this space, and he is creating a lot of music, and he also runs streaming radio stations. And so he sees a lot of wannabe artists that are putting out AI generated music. I'm personally not a fan of AI generated music, but what he has found is that there is a large percentage of people out there totally fine listening to AI generated music. And I listen to it. In some particular cases, it sounds great. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm on the fence on this one. I'm not a fan of listening to it. I love my artists and I love personalities, but I know in Japan, it's been totally embraced with
Yeah.
AI generated avatars that are creating music. There's a lot of people that have no problem with it, but there's always going to be a portion of the audience who are like, forget it. If it has anything to do with AI, I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah.
I can totally respect that.
I think there's a difference between the novelty of a sound or a novelty of a thing. We even see this in like Lovable and Base 44's audiences are plummeting. And I think there's an adoption, I call it the novelty adoption curve. I will listen to it at the early stage. And in music, it's the early stage of my affection. It's this, yeah, wow, that's a really great sound. Even I found a playlist, it was like outlaw gospel. And it was this kind of like hyper masculine, as if a biker gang wrote some gospel music. I was like, man, this is a really cool sound. But for longevity, for loyalty, I think it's more about knowing the people behind the brand. And so for me, my wife for Christmas bought us tickets to see Forrest Frank in August. So he's a Christian artist, but we're starting to follow him socially. My whole family keeps up with him. And so I think that's going to be the long-term play. Yeah, there will be novelty where, yeah, you'll get a lot of downloads or a lot of listens, but they know your
People want to follow people. We're interested in the story. And if it's made up and we know it's made up, is you kind of like being in the Star Trek holodeck. We know it's not real, and so it's no big deal. It's nothing. But if it is a real person and you can get to know them, get to know their backstory, where they've come from, how they got here, that is intriguing. And that's why businesses need to have a story behind them as well. To your point, and yeah, you're probably right. It is a novelty right now, interesting right now. But I'm going to have a hard time getting behind an AI avatar because they have no backstory. It's just somebody clicked a few buttons and just said, hey, create this personality, and there you go. There's no human touch there. And I still,
Yeah.
even though we're doing this virtually, I'd love to have done it in person, but trying to connect, people they're losing so much connection, but they still want human to human interaction. And that's the power of story. That's the power of people at the end of the day. And I don't think AI is ever going to have that. At least I sure hope not.
Yeah, certainly. If people liked what you've had to share today, how would you like them to connect with you, and who do you want to connect with?
Oh, sure. I talk to a lot of different people, a lot of different backgrounds. Yeah, we've had a lot of Christian conversations here, but the vast majority of the people I serve come from all sorts of different faith backgrounds, or non-faith backgrounds, and love them, just love them. But for connecting with us, obviously, there's our website, clicklaboratory.com. It's really hard to spell laboratory, but you can find us. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. We've got our own email list. Your normal digital marketing stuff. You can find us. If you just search for me, you'll find me. It's not that hard. But yeah, we work with all sorts of different types of industries, but for the most part, we work with a lot of ministries, work with a lot of restaurants, we work with a lot of franchises. We've taken on customers across many different industries because I love working with people and trying to solve problems with. Again, I'm an entrepreneur at the end of the day and I love learning. And so when we get a new industry comes to us, oh, let's sit down and figure this out. That's what's so fun about this kind of a business is that you get to do all sorts of great and crazy things. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for spending time with us
Oh,
today.
loved
It's
it.
been great having you on the show. We expect great things from both this strategy of community-led apps and this app that you're working on.
Thanks.
It's going to be super exciting to see what you're able to.
It's going to be an exciting year to see how this progresses. By the end of the year, AI is going to be doing so many things that we can't even predict right now. It's going to be like, okay, what are going to be doing 365 days from now? It'll be
Yeah,
neat.
awesome.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you.